What if the future of food security looks like the past? Not lab-grown meat, not AI-powered agriculture, not climate-controlled mega-farms, but barrels, salt, time. Step back to World War II, a world without reliable refrigeration, without stable supply chains, without guaranteed deliveries to the local market. Entire cities were cut off, imports stopped, electricity failed, and yet, people ate, communities survived, armies were supplied. How? Fermentation, not as a trend, not as a probiotic lifestyle choice, as survival. When fresh food couldn't travel and refrigerators were rare or rationed, households and entire neighborhoods turned to crocks, barrels, and underground cellars. Cabbage became sauerkraut that lasted through winter. Cucumbers transformed into pickles a staple for months. Milk became cultured dairy that resisted spoilage. Even meats and fish were preserved through salt curing and controlled fermentation. This wasn't just about flavor, it was about time. Fermentation slowed decay, stabilized nutrients, and protected precious calories when every harvest mattered. In bombed cities and rural villages alike, jars lined shelves like insurance policies against uncertainty. And here's what's fascinating. Many of these methods required almost nothing. No electricity, no machinery, just salt ratios, temperature awareness, and microbial science people understood intuitively, even if they didn't call it that. Communities shared starter cultures. Families, they guarded recipes. Knowledge traveled faster than infrastructure. In this episode, we're uncovering the overlooked food systems that quietly sustained populations during one of the most unstable periods in modern history. Not just sauerkraut, but honestly, lesser-known ferments, preserved grains, cultured vegetables, and cellar techniques that extended shelf life far beyond what most of us think is possible without refrigeration. Because the real wartime innovation wasn't just weapons or strategy, it was, resilience. So, let's dive into how fermentation actually worked at a biological level. Beneficial bacteria, they outcompeted spoilage organisms, keeping food safe. Acidity became a kind of natural protection, and these old-school methods made it possible for critical nutrients to survive for months, even through tough times. You'll see how, when things were scarce, creativity really took off. Peels, scraps, and extra harvests weren't just thrown away. They were transformed into something useful. Households, in a way, became little food labs, experimenting and making the most out of what they had. What some called leftovers actually became lifelines for survival. And here's the question that changes everything. If communities under bombardment could sustain food without a modern grid, what does that say about our dependence today? This isn't nostalgia, it's a strategy. Because fermentation doesn't just preserve food, it preserves options. It decentralizes storage. It reduces waste. It creates redundancy when systems fail. As we move through this story, you'll begin to see World War II not just as a period of destruction, but as a crash course in sustainable food engineering. You'll understand why fermentation wasn't a side technique, it was infrastructure. And some of those same jars, crocks, and underground cellars still work the same way today. No firmware updates required. So get ready to rethink what modern really means, because the people who lived through ration books, blackouts, and broken supply lines left behind more than recipes. They left behind a blueprint for abundance without refrigeration, a blueprint for resilience built on microbes and memory. Stay with me, because next, we're diving into the specific methods that kept vegetables crisp for months, protected dairy from spoilage, and turned simple cabbage into a winter-long survival asset. You won't look at a jar the same way again.